political live stream here. I'm Trevor Lane, joined by Donnie Freeman, and we're going to talk about De'Aaron Fox. Is it time to get the Fox out of Sacramento? Donnie, these are De'Aaron Fox's latest comments. He said on the Draymond Green podcast that I want to make sure, talking about Sacramento, that we're in a position to win in the future because that's what I want to do. I would love to be here and retire here, but at the end of the day, I want to win. He's talking about why he did not sign an extension with the Sacramento Kings. What do you think about, or has not yet, what do you think about this, saying I want to be able to win in the future? Currently, the Sacramento Kings sitting outside of the playoffs in the Western Conference with a 13-14 record.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about how they're probably better than, they appear to be based on a bunch of advanced stuff. And they've had some bad luck and they're losing close games and things like that. But regardless, I do understand it. I mean, he has never really been in a really winning situation. He's had a couple of seasons where they made it in or got close, things like that, but hasn't had that opportunity yet. So I think it's only natural that he starts trying to put pressure on the organization and he wants to pivot towards winning.
Well, this is also coming off of a very tough loss last night for Sacramento. They lost. We had DeMar DeRozan had a shot at the buzzer to win the game against the Nuggets. He missed it. I don't know if this was recorded before this or before that game or after, but regardless, they've had some tough luck. That can be draining, though. And so you have to wonder if Sacramento isn't believing that De'Aaron Fox will sign an extension with him, and he's got 2 years under contract, including this year, next year also under contract, right around 36-ish $1 million off top of my head, $34 million and change this season. If they're not convinced that he's going to stick around long term, and if he doesn't feel like he can win there, should Sacramento explore the trade market with him at the trade deadline by February 6th?
Man, that's a really tough question because I don't. It's things would have to get really bad for them to hit that point, because you don't want to obviously move him if you could avoid it. But yeah, I think if they get to a point where it looks like he may leave because he's unrestricted, right?
Yeah, he would be unrestricted, not this summer, but
Unrestricted,
next
yeah.
summer.
Ooh. Next time. Okay, well, you still got a little bit of time. But yeah, if it looks like they're not able to patch things up and like he may be leaving, then sure, I think that you can't just let a player like him leave for no reason or for no return, excuse me. So I do think they've got to try something there. But I think that since it's next season, they do have a little bit of time here.
Yeah, exactly. They've got time to figure this out, but I mean, I don't think this comes to a head now at the trade deadline. If it does, it changes the whole trade market, but I don't think it comes to a head now at the trade deadline. It could be one of those kind of like stealth trades that just pops up out of nowhere, and we're like, "What? This guy just got traded here." But otherwise, I think it would be something that would come up this coming summer. If he still doesn't sign an extension with the Kings, then it's on. Then the De'Aaron Fox trade market is off and running, and I'll tell you what, though, if he hits the market this trade deadline, if the Sacramento Kings are told by De'Aaron Fox, I'm not going to stick around long term, they put him on the market, he jumps to the top of the list for me. I'm a big fan of De'Aaron Fox. I may overrate him. I'll be honest there. I'm biased towards him. I may overrate him. But I would rather go get De'Aaron Fox than Jimmy Butler. I'd rather get De'Aaron Fox than Brandon Ingram. Anybody else who is realistically out there on the market, De'Aaron Fox will be number one. He is a go all in type of guy. I think for a number of teams, they'd be going after him and bringing everything they can to go get him.
Yeah, I think that he would be easily the best guy on the market. So that's why I also think that they shouldn't try to give up on him too soon. But if you get to that point, then sure. But you can't just let him leave. You got to get a king's ransom back for him. And I think that basically every team in the league, whether they've got a point guard or not, should be interested in De'Aaron because he is one of the better point guards. And I don't know that he gets talked about enough as being one of those better point guards. And I think that he can make so many teams better. Point guard is the most saturated position in the league right now. But still, a lot of these teams could stand to get an upgrade, especially getting a player of that caliber. But I do think that, again, it's going to be kind of tough to win right now for the Kings, regardless of the fact we think they're better. I think that the West is just really competitive, and so they're going to have to find a way to start winning some games. And if they can do that, and I don't know that he wants to just make the playoffs or the play-in. Maybe they've got to make the second round or really make a push for something in the next season or really this playoff time. But yeah, maybe that's where things are at. But I think that they may be in a tough spot with him.
We've got a few suggestions here in the chat. JS says Zion for Fox. Would you do that? God, talk
No.
about high risk.
New Orleans, yeah.
New Orleans would do it. If I'm New Orleans, I would
Yeah.
do that in a second. If that's on, and the salaries actually are pretty close to matching. If that's on the table,
Yeah.
I'm doing it. I don't care that I've already got DeJounte Murray. I'm doing that in a second. If I'm New Orleans, if I'm the Kings, oh my God, talk about a high risk, high reward. But imagine the
Yeah.
brute force of Zion next to Sabonis. Not a lot of rim
Hey,
protection, I guess, but that would be interesting.
you like with Zion, anytime you talk about him, you've got one of the best theoretical players in the league. You put him anywhere, and in theory, it looks like it could be disgusting. But yeah, I don't know, because he's just not able to stay healthy. He's just such a good talent, but not able to stay healthy. Side note, I wanted to shout out my guy Dan. I see him in the chat. What's up, Dan?
Hey Dan, how's it going, man? Good to see you here.
Yeah, he said hit the like button. Yeah, guys, make sure you
That's
hit that
right.
thumbs up.
Hit that thumbs up button. Let's go. We've got 130 video. These are short form, guys, going live on the vertical
Mhm.
platform here, going through shorts. So we're not going to stay on here super long. We're going to be done in just a few minutes. But hit that like button, get those likes up for us. We certainly do appreciate it. And if you're not a subscriber yet to the Basketball Bulletin, make sure you do hit that subscribe button as well. Somebody said Miami or San Antonio, Mike said, as landing spots for him. As a fan of a Western Conference team, I'm scared as hell of a De'Aaron Fox and Wemby combo in San Antonio. That's
Oh
too good.
man.
That's too good.
That's what, so like I was gonna bring up some destinations, but that's like my top of the list. Because if you give, like, Castle's good, but if you give Wemby a really good point guard, I mean, oh, it's gonna be, and it's not gonna be just nasty right now. It's gonna be nasty for like the next decade.
Yeah, yeah. It would be all kinds of problems for the entire rest of the
Yeah,
league.
yeah.
That would be rough if they would. I mean, and by the way, great for the Spurs. If the Spurs have the opportunity, yes, start cashing in picks, go get him. That would be a phenomenal
Go for
duo
it.
from here on out. I
Yeah.
like Miami being mentioned because Miami, realistically, any big time player that comes up, you can just attach Miami to as being interested. They're interested in every time a big player comes up. But Miami would also be a great fit. They're a team that was in on Damian Lillard. They were trying to get him. There were talks about them maybe getting Bradley Beal. Instead, they backed off when they saw that contract, that no trade clause, and all of that. It's part of why I don't think Jimmy Butler's going to the Phoenix Suns, because the Miami Heat do not want Bradley Beal back, or at least they shouldn't. If they do take back Bradley Beal, something is wrong with them. But this is, I think, would be an interesting landing spot for him. And there are some assets there Miami could give up as well. But I really think this is a guy that everybody in the league should have some interest in, some degree of it, if he does hit the market.
Yeah, I think you've got to go for it. Absolutely. But I think that's still very far away. I don't think it's, anywhere near close to happening, or even that it will happen. Some of the chats were asking about, like, obviously Lakers stuff. Do you trade him for Reeves? Guys, if that trade is somewhat on the table in any way, shape, or form, you don't even think about it.
Yeah.
You make that deal before they could even hang up the phone. You got to call it in immediately.
You're
But
giving
it's
up
not going to be
whatever
on
it
the table.
takes. Reeves, both firsts. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
going over
yeah. You
to
do it
go get
instantly.
De'Aaron Fox. You would have to be willing, and I think teams would still beat that offer. I think teams would beat that
Yeah.
offer.
Oh, yeah.
Dan, the Laker fan, says, "Salute, brothers." Thanks, Dan. Who do you guys have winning tonight's tournament? I've got OKC. Get it done. I think their defense is going to make all the difference in the world. They are a terror on that end of the floor. They're going to make life hell on the Milwaukee Bucks, and I think OKC gets it done and wins the NBA Cup tonight.
Yeah, I think that's a safe bet. Giannis is going to do what he does, but if Dame's been awesome this season. I think that's not been talked about enough. He had situations where he, wasn't trying to get hurt or anything last offseason that led to a slow season for him last year. But he's bounced back to being Dame again this year. But I do think that with Caruso and Dort and some of these guys, they're going to make it really tough on Dame, to where if he has a subpar game in any way, that could be just what they need to swing and win. So I'd like to say that I think the Bucks would win, aside from the fact that, I'm not a huge fan of Doc or maybe Darvin. maybe. Bucks fans, if you're watching, I'm sorry. I just had to say it. But no.
Darvin's undefeated record on the line tonight in the NBA Cup.
You know what? that's what you should be rooting for. You should be rooting for Darvin to be the first ever back-to-back champion of the in-season. By the way, this is the first time I've ever seen an assistant coach start getting credit for wins. By the way, it's pretty interesting. But yeah, I think that's where things get kind of crazy.
Man. That's what that is. That's how much people hate the
First time I've ever seen it.
Magic Johnson should have taken Fox instead of drafting Lonzo. Fox or Tatum, sure. Yep.
Yeah.
No question there. Yeah. Hindsight 2020, but no question there. No question there. All right, we'll do DeAndre Ayton or Zion for Portland. I think that's where you just roll the dice on the upside of Zion. Like DeAndre Ayton, he is what he is. He's a low motor big. I'm gambling on the upside of Zion.
I do not really care for Ayton at all. And this isn't even like a Portland thing. Even back to when he was in Phoenix, I just didn't really care much for him. He's so big. He doesn't really play with any force, and you just kind of can't have that. And then also he's always like a step late, like you said, low motor. I don't know. I mean, like if he was on the Lakers, sure, he could be good with AD, but I'd be a little bit concerned about that because sometimes AD's motor doesn't rev all the way up, and then you'd have him over there too, and it could just look kind of bad. But I don't know. But nonetheless, though, I'm not a huge fan of Ayton, so I don't know. I probably would just swing on Zion.
I'm not a fan of Ayton's game. I'm not a fan of Ayton's contract, and I'm not a fan of Ayton's nickname. I am out on dominating. You can't give yourself a nickname.
What is a nickname to you?
So bad. So bad. It's awful. All right, everybody. We appreciate all of you for joining us here again. This is the Vertical Live short form. Wanted to talk a little bit about De'Aaron Fox's comments and what it could mean on the trade market for the Sacramento Kings. Again, I think if they do put him on the market, every team should go all in, or at least, depending on how many assets they've actually got, pretty darn close to it to try to get him. I don't think we're going to get there just yet, but something certainly to keep an eye on. Now that De'Aaron Fox is talking about how bad he wants to win, that puts some pressure on the Kings front office to get something done here by the trade deadline. Everybody, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Turn on those notifications as well. Go check out the video I released just a couple hours ago on Kyle Kuzma, because his trade market just changed. Fair play picks. Let's go. Thank you so much for coming in here. We appreciate you. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.